Hey, thanks again for joining us here on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. Super pumped. This is one of my favorite type of interviews. As you know, as humbled as I've been and had over 100 interviews here on the podcast over the past year, which is really kind of a crazy number when you think about it. Lots of the guests that I've had on air are people that I've known from a 10-year coaching career, now 15 years here at Gill. I've known them, worked with them on projects. I know of them in some form or fashion. Today's guest is the exact opposite. I'm afraid our guest today and I have never met. Maybe we have, and I'm going to embarrass myself. He's going to tell me how we met somewhere. But please help me welcome to the show the head coach of Dillard University, Mr. Nile Legania.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Did I nail the name?
You got it. You got it.
I'm proud. We can just hit stop record right here. I've hit all my goals. Niles, thanks for joining us, man. I really do appreciate you spending some time with us today and getting to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
So let's start with, you're at Dillard University. Tell me a little bit more about Dillard and how you got there.
We're HBCU down in New Orleans, Louisiana on the East Bank. Nice small school, but a very family-oriented university. We have a great president. I feel that, my athletic director, Dr. Barnes, is one of the best in the country. And they allowed me to come in, and do what I love to do at a high level. So I definitely appreciate them for even, bringing me on during this pandemic, especially.
I didn't know Dillard was an HBCU. I love that. We've had Lamont Vaughn from Grambling State, which I don't know if you know him, but in the
I know
state
him.
I love that guy. He's one of my dear friends. And then we've had Richie Bean from Alabama State, which I've been I've looked up to Richie for my whole career. So it was awesome to have him. So I love having another HBCU here on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're the head coach here at Dillard, right?
Yes, I am the head cross country and track and field coach. Yes.
And this is your first head coaching job?
Yes, on the college level, this is month 3 for me. So yes, this is my first collegiate position and I'm loving it,
I think, normally we say, you've done 1 year or 5 years, et cetera. I think time inside of COVID should count as double. So you've been there 3 months, but I bet you've had like 6 months of experience packed in.
Absolutely.
Well, before we learn more about Dillard and your role and what's been going on for the last 3 months, let's get in our Wayback Machine here. Let's learn more about track and field for Nile, how you got into it, when did it start? And I did notice a pretty good accent there that makes me feel like you are from the New Orleans area.
Yes, I am from New Orleans, born and raised on the West Bank in Algiers. Actually started track when I was 14 years old. I was more into the football field, for park area. And I got in and I was always fast. I was the kid, that would run corner to corner and race kids in the neighborhood and such. And my mom was like, you should run track, because she did it in high school. And I was like, no, I'm not into track. I'm into football, basketball, everything else but track. And when I got into it, I loved it because I was winning. It came natural. The hard work came, further down the line once you really get into high school. But I didn't start track until 13, 14 years old.
So you said mom ran track as well?
Mom ran.
Yeah. Was she what kind of events did she do? A sprinter, hurdler?
Short sprints. She ran for Xavier Prep in New Orleans. It was an all-girls school at the time. She went. And I remember maybe being like 11 or 12, and we used to run to the corner store every single night, and she would never let me win. And when I turned about 13 and I was right on her hip, we never raced again. So I never beat my mom in running. So that was pretty cool story to tell. But I never told that story to anybody, but I've never beat her in running, because when I got near, she shut it down on me. So
shout out to mom, knowing when to retire. She's like, all right, we're good. Right? We're good. You keep going, but I'm good.
Right.
I love mom's attitude of not letting you win. I have 2 kids myself, almost 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And whether we're playing Uno, chess, checkers, basketball, racing, no, sir, no, ma'am. If you beat me, you have beaten me. You don't get nothing given to you. And I love that attitude. Looking back at it now, do you see like some competitiveness that gained from those type of attitudes the way you were raised, or did that not play in at all?
Yeah, very competitive. I had older cousins that again, did not allow me to just win because I'm smaller than you. Everything I had to do, I had to earn it.
Mhm.
And as an adult, it's the same way. It's something that just came from my childhood throughout my upbringing. And it's just something I always win after. Like, I want to be the most competitive person, no matter what it is. Who's drinking the water the fastest? I want to win. So I just like to enjoy it, and a lot of the things that I learned as a kid, I do as an adult right now. So I think it's pretty cool to look back, when I'm telling the stories and be like, yeah, nobody really like ever let me win, even in basketball against my uncles. I never won. So I think that's pretty cool. That they kept their foot on my neck like that, and then I become who I've become.
I assume, mom and cousins, they never just gave you anything. You had to earn it. I assume now as adult, nobody has given you anything. You've had to earn the positions and the trust and the respect that you have garnered now, just like any other thing, like a pickup game back as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, as far as track, man, it's been, yeah, I have to pay my own way. I had an uncle that was extremely good, Harold Legania back in the 60s and 70s, that was really, really, really talented. And when they hear the last name, they would be like, "Well, who is that?" To you, and that was my great uncle, my grandmother brother. And trying not to follow in what he did and try to get my own lane was kind of hard in the beginning as an athlete. But I'm the first person in my family to do it on a coaching level. So
Mhm.
I've been able to carve my own way and kind of do things my way. So I've been able to make a mark, especially in the Louisiana area on a high school level for the last 10 years. I've been able to do it, and hopefully when I get to, well, I'm at Dillard now, it just continues, and I'm in my city. So,
Mhm.
that's the best feeling in the world, being where you're from, coaching at the
Yeah.
highest level that they have to offer in your state.
So take us to your high school. You said you were more of a footballer, basketballer before track. Did it change in high school or did you still play multiple sports?
Multiple, track and football.
Hmm.
I was just a fast football player, for a while. And then, once I got into high school, I had a few good coaches, and it was like, "You're running track, it's non-negotiable." And I actually turned into a 100-meter state champion, man. And that was pretty cool. So yeah, I did both in high school, and my fastest time was actually 10:47 in high school.
I was about to say, if you're a state
Yeah,
champion in Louisiana, Louisiana is one of those, smaller states. It's not a Texas, California, Florida thing, whatever,
yeah,
but they are some amazing we know, I mean, football and everything, so many great
right.
athletes come out there, but track, amazing athletes come out of Louisiana. So you were state champ at 10-4.
Yeah.
Holy cow. What did you do did you jump or anything as well? Or were you just strictly a sprinter?
100, 200 guy. Wasn't really on relays because, at the time, everything was still football heavy.
Hmm.
So we didn't really get many skill position players out, to come out and compete in track. So I kind of did it on my own with a couple of other guys, but just mainly 100, 200 sprints. And, was really mad when my coach put me in the 400 because that
I,
wasn't my
I was
thing.
going to
But,
ask about the 4x4 or
yeah,
something.
no. But, as a coach, I get it now. But as an athlete, oh no, no sir, no thank you, no
See,
thank
but
you.
you didn't do it as a kid, so it's hard when you ask the kids to do it, and you're like, "Yeah, it's not like I just volunteered to, to
Yeah,
jump the
it's
spot."
definitely mind games when you're trying to take a short sprinter and say, "Hey, come and run on this 4x4 for me." But it's a challenge I love, though. It's a challenge I love.
Well, tell me about high school and track and field specifically. What coaches maybe had some influence on you in a positive manner?
So in high school, Coach Hardy and Coach Williams, those were my two coaches on a high school level. For summer track, I ran for West Bank Track Club. Coach Lawrence, Coach Joe, and Coach Rice. It was like more your community
Hmm.
track club. It wasn't about going out competing at the highest level. It wasn't about winning national championships. It was more of, let's get the kids, let's keep them out of trouble,
Hmm.
and let's bring them to travel, around the United States, because that was my first time being Orlando,
Oh
being
yeah.
the Virginia and things like that. And I saw it through cross country. I saw it through track and field over the summer, so that was pretty cool. A lot of us had never been past Baton Rouge, so being able to travel over the summer doing something that's competitive, I had fun doing it. And some of
Yeah.
my closest friends, we still are close friends from 20 plus years ago. So I think that's pretty special and pretty cool.
Wow. Give us a sense of time frame here. What year did you graduate high school?
Graduated 2001.
Okay, all right. That helps us with time frame of where you were. So 2001. So that was still because the big hurricane was 05-ish, right? So
Yeah.
you're still pre. It's almost like, we talk about airlines and stuff pre and post 9/11. With anything in New Orleans, we talk about pre and post Katrina.
Right.
You finished up with 10:47, which is, I mean, come on, man. There's only a handful of people every year that run that fast. So you were one of the fastest around the country, but you didn't start out that fast. When in high school did it click in? So you're always one of the fast guys, but you were still getting beat because there were other fast people. When did it?
Right. Absolutely.
When did it click for you? It was like, oh, wait a minute, I might be one of the better kids around now.
So I came up around, I don't know if you know the Skylar Green, played in the NFL. Ashton and Aaron Collins, they actually signed to Texas back in the early 2000s. Akeem Jolly, who actually played football at Miami. Chris Lawson, that was at Holy Cross, and a few other kids, like they went to college and they did track at a high level. And it wasn't until I think my senior year, and we had a round of the mill track meet, and I'm beating these guys, and I'm like, wait a minute, these are track guys. I'm like, wait a minute, like I may have something here.
So you still considered yourself more of a football guy who ran track?
A fast football player, correct? That just came out to run track.
Yeah.
And I, never got the technical running from it. Never was, taught how to do blocks, kind of things. I just always used the 40 meters, 40-yard dash stands and put myself in the blocks while doing it. So it looked like I knew what I was doing, but I was just out there freestyling. So yeah, it was like 50 meters out. I'm like, okay, I'm beating these guys. I ended up running. That's when I ran the 10-4, and I ended up finishing second to Skylar, who was at the time the #1 rated, 100-meter run in the country. And I was like, okay, this might be something. I might have something here. Yeah. And it wasn't until that race, my senior year of high school, midway through the season, I was like, okay, you might be a track runner.
That's interesting. When did college come into a thought for you? And I don't even know, did you end up going to play football or run track, or what did the next level look like?
So what ended up happening was Southern Miss wanted to sign a dual scholarship. So the ACT score wasn't there, right? Because, back then we didn't have the ACT prep and these things, and the test was only twice a year, right? So I struggled with that aspect, ended up signing to a D2 in Mississippi, Delta State.
Oh yeah, I know Delta State. Yeah.
Good old Cleveland, Mississippi.
Yeah.
But only for football because they didn't have a track team.
Right.
So I took that route. It paid for college. That was, to me, that was more important. I had a single mom. She working however many jobs. So I have to figure out how can I not have her pay for anything. So that was the outlet. I went that route. So I didn't run track in college. And at the time, you don't know anything about running unattached and doing those things. You had no clue back then. It was just one or the other. I ended up running 4.28 on one of our little pro day deals out there. So I was like, okay, well, you still have it. You still have it. And now, we have some guys that can fly. Yeah.
Let's talk about this 40-yard dash 4.28. Now, there's a big controversy, and it's well worth a controversy of the hand times versus electronic. Literally, before we hit record, someone posted on Twitter, are we doing our kids a disservice by telling them their hand time 40 yards, and then, it's half a second slower when they hit the lasers? Was the 4.28 hand time?
So the 4.28 was hand time. Okay. And then once I finished, and I did a few workouts on some laser things, that time actually converted to like a 4.37.
I was going to say, you're probably a legit 4.4 guy, right? Yeah.
So the conversion was spot on, but just hearing like, 4.28, that was okay. I'm moving. I'm thinking that's beyond extremely fast.
Right.
But I was like, okay, this got to be sub 4.4, and it ended up being sub 4.4 on my pro day.
Yeah.
So I went and took that route, tried the NFL thing, got a few, invited to a few different places and workouts and things like that, Canada workouts. I ended up landing a gig in arena football.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was out there for a season, had some fun, but it wasn't fun. Like I was having, a time of my life I should be, but to me, it wasn't fun. And I felt like that was the moment that it was like, okay, well, football should be over for you. I wasn't injured. I was starting, like it just wasn't fun anymore. And then I came back home.
So when you were going through college and you're playing football, no track team, was there, like, did you pay attention to track? So like in Mississippi, I used to coach at Mississippi State. So I actually would have been at Starkville when you were down in
Yeah.
Cleveland. Did you ever like look up results like, oh, what's the guys at Ole Miss and Mississippi State running? Or was it just, you're in college, you got enough to think about with playing football, academics, moms back home, those kind of things. Any eye towards track at all, or was it completely in the back pocket?
I'm not gonna say it wasn't in a back pocket, but I was also keeping up with some of my friends that I competed against.
Oh, right.
So I was able to kind of keep up with Ashton and Aaron, who was at Texas, with Sonya Richards actually, and I was able to be like, okay, they're doing it, But at the time, I'm not really a track kid, so the times are not making you run the 46-1 and the 400. Like, what is
Good
that?
point.
So I cheered them on. From a distance, and also Chris, who was at Ole Miss actually, and I just cheered those guys on, and that's to the extent of track, that I had at that moment.
What were you majoring in, and what did you, as you're going through college, think you wanted to do for a profession, for a career?
I had no idea.
The typical college student.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had no idea. I knew that I had to go to college.
Okay.
That part I did know. It was non-negotiable. My mom was like, "You get out of New Orleans, you have to go."
Man, I might need to interview your mom. Your mom sounds awesome.
Man,
Holy cow, I love her.
So it was non-negotiable. No rhyme or reason. No pat. Go. So I went and I used football. When I got there, I said, "I figure it out. Let me figure it out." And I kind of knew, I wanted to do something in the sports movement arena.
Right.
So I had to figure out, what courses that they had available. They didn't have kinesiology. So I tried to find something, that can counter that. And I ended up with health education and physical recreation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I can do this and do some things to jump off that with a minor. So I ended up getting my minor in early childhood, which was strange, right?
Wow,
yeah, but I felt if I can learn about the smallest person, and as they grow up, I can understand the adults.
interesting.
If I ever got to that level. So I took that approach, graduated with the minor, left out, did the arena football, came back home and enrolled in Capella University to get my master's in early childhood education.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so I have a master's in early childhood education, which is, which is weird.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of adults act like babies. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure that part out, like, why do people act like this? So I ended up getting a master's degree, and I came back home and started that, just working, odd jobs and things like that, work at 7-Up, Pepsi, still not, what I'm going to do. Eventually I'll get into my degree field.
Was coaching at all one of those options, or?
No. No. So when I came back after college, I was actually training in between workouts, and ran across a bunch of guys I used to, play playground with, high school ball with, and we started training together. And we started calling ourselves Team Legania. And like, this is before hashtag team everything, right? So we're gonna say we created it, right? And we got t-shirts made, like the whole thing. Like, we just at the park working out. We're gonna make it a big scene
and fun.
And it was and fun and competitive. And it was 6 of us. And it was 6 of us, and we ended up with about 100 people out there training.
What?
The newspaper people picked it up. It was in a newspaper down here. It was weird. Like, it really became too much. So I think that gave me, you might be able to teach, right? So, but I had my degree and I could possibly go be a PE teacher. So I started applying for a PE position.
Right.
Got the job. That's actually the job I left to become the head coach at Dillard. I was there almost 9 years.
Oh, wow.
So I was a PE teacher from like 2012-ish to now. And
what level? Like elementary, middle school, high school?
Everything. So it was from pre-K to 8th grade.
Okay.
So on the 8-hour block, I would see the babies from pre-K in the morning, and I would have 8th graders by the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I would go practice with my high school kids. So I really got the whole spectrum, throughout the day, which was pretty cool. And I like it because that's why I learned how to do some of this track stuff. So I have a 6-year-old. I'll put him through this drill, and I'll be able to see like the basic fundamental. It gets no lower than watching a pre-care do something.
Right.
So I started using that to kind of do drills and work on stride. Like it was weird. Like I had my own little weird thing I had going on in my head, and the principal looking like, oh my God, this is great. But at the time, I'm training for practice. Like it looked crazy, but I was able to like really understand movement.
Hmm.
And that was something that was really big for me. And I was there for, close to a decade.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
mentioned you had the little ones all the way through middle school, and then you had your high school kids. So were you coaching a high school team for track?
Yeah. So in 2010, I began coaching on a high school level.
Okay.
And again, the Dillard job took me away from it. It was 10 seasons at Edna Carr down in New Orleans, my alma mater, actually. So that's the high school I graduated from. And the crazy story about that is when I came home doing my training, I ran into one of my ex-coaches, and he was the head coach at Carr. So he was like, man, I think you should come out and coach. And I'm like, I'm not a coach, like
Right.
I'm not a coach.
Right.
And we talked, he convinced me. So I went out in 2010, and I'm like, this might be the dream, like this is my old high school. Like this might be,
Right.
I might be able to do something here. Cause when I go back, I still see pictures from when I played
Wow.
on the wall. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And I committed to it. And like a couple of years after that, I got the PE job. So I was doing movement 10 to 12 hours a day,
Yeah, all day.
just
Yeah.
every level from 6 to 18 years old. So it was pretty cool, and we had a great run. Those 10 years I was able to, he taught me a lot about strategizing. Like not so much about the technical side of those things. I went and got that training. Like I'm level 2 certified now. So I went on my own and got that information. But like he taught me a lot about the X's and O's of track, and like how to deal with Hollywood personalities, how to deal with kids that's not as good, that see their counterpart performing well and they're going through the same training. How do you handle that person? So he taught me like a lot about just not so much the technical side, but this is how you run a program, not a team, but a program. And I was able to be under him for about 4 to 5 years. And then he left, moved back home to New York and Buffalo, and they gave me the gig. I guess I was the man up. So I was able to do 5 years as the head coach. And during that time, we won 5 state championships in a row.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So from 2015 to 2019, every single year we won state. And when I was coaching under Coach Tubbins, we actually won state and won the 4x1 at New Balance Nationals. So yeah, so in the span of 10 years, man, we was able to do 6 state championships and 4 state run-up.
Yeah, that's a lot to break down. Okay, so let's work on this. So you're coaching middle school. I'm sorry, you're teaching PE for 6 all the way up through elementary, coaching at your alma mater, which, I'm getting the sense of that community might be something that's important to you. Is that
correct?
Yeah, I kind of get that sense of just where you came from, or not even where you came from, where you are, and then going back to your alma mater, which and I tend to think of it more on the collegiate side. Whenever I meet a coach and they're coaching at their alma mater for college, it always I just get a warm feeling for that, because I really love the recruiting aspect of college. And so I think when you're talking to a kid about how great your university is, there's no stronger way to prove your commitment to the school than, I picked it. I went to school here.
Right,
it's just like, if I'm a recruit or a recruit's parents, that is that's got to be a strong, oh, okay, this guy actually believes this school's great because they went there. So I love that. So I love that you're coaching at your high school alma mater as well, and you're seeing things that remind you of the past when you were there. You obviously have a much more intimate knowledge of the issues, positive and negative, that kids are going through in that part of the neighborhood, in that school. So, and you survived and thrived going through that. So you have a lot of experience to share with them. I love that. So okay, so beyond all that, you're doing a lot of great things to help kids, not just track, right? But just in life in general there. And on top, this nice little cherry on top, 5 state championships. Oh, and 4 runner-ups.
Well,
that
six
that
six state championships
six.
and 4
Oh,
runners. Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I knew
yeah.
that one was. You
That
always free to correct me on that kind of stuff.
that first one was extremely hard, man.
Sure.
That first one is where we did a lot of losing, and we had to learn how to compete together.
Yeah.
So that first one, it felt like surreal, and then everything after that, we didn't celebrate. At that point, it was you supposed to do it, and then
Mhm,
you're supposed to have colleges come in and sign you, and
mhm,
that we became robotic. So like from like 2015 to 2000, I'll say even 20, even with the COVID, we was robotic. So we didn't enjoy it, and I started feeling like, well, maybe if I'm at this point, it's time to either move on to just only club or move on to the next level because we're not even enjoying it. Like
mhm.
we're on a podium talking about the next season, who's graduating and those things. So I never got an opportunity to like really celebrate really any of them but that first one. So that first one, it was just like, oh my God, we did a lot of losing to this point, and y'all earned this is it.
Yeah,
And after that, we became robotic, and
that's
it
too
just became a
bad.
program.
That is
Yeah,
too bad because, when you win a state championship or an NCAA championship, or I should say college championship, no matter what level, like that's special. That's hard.
yeah,
No matter how many points you
yeah,
actually win it by, that's hard to repeat and then repeat, 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 repeat. Like that's special. And you're doing it with different kids each time.
yeah.
It's not the same kids. It's not that robotic in the sense of, oh, it's the same kids and the same events and everything like that. Not only is your team different, but the challengers that are coming at you are different as well.
Right,
So
right.
it's interesting. That reminds me of a study they did with Olympic athletes and which ones for gold, silver, and bronze. So the ones that got gold obviously had the most positive emotion. I think they were studying like their facial, the smiles and your eyebrow, the what you show is for satisfaction and
Yeah,
positivity, right? So obviously the people who won gold had the highest rating. The second highest rating you would think would be silver because that's the next level down. It was actually the bronze,
hmm,
and the most disappointment were the people who won silver.
yeah,
So the bronze person, the people were extremely happy because one mess up and they could have been fourth and no medal.
yeah,
Silver people, instead of being excited that they got silver, that they beat the bronze and beat all the other people, their focus was more on what they didn't capture. They
right.
didn't win the gold, so they actually had less. So that just kind of made me think of the parallel with your team of like, oh man, we just got robotic, and it was you said it was not fun. And boy, shouldn't high school, of all sports, shouldn't high school be fun regardless if you're winning? You're winning in a winning
Yeah,
program and it's not fun.
wasn't fun.
That's not
And
good.
then like the kids would just be like, all right, we did it again. Now it's time to get ready for summer track. So even for them, it
Uh,
became not so much fun. So we purposely made summer track not about winning anything. Let's go out and enjoy it.
hmm,
So a lot of the kids enjoyed summer track more than school track, and I also did too. So
interesting.
nothing's on the line. Let's just get better each week. And on the end of it, we get to Junior Olympics Club Championships. Let's see what we get from it. We get nothing. Oh well.
Hmm.
So high five, but it got to the point that we was just robotic, and we waited till the summer to have fun. So I'm yeah.
Well, talk to us about, so let's put aside the robotic and not fun side to it. But the culture of winning and how you prepare and then continue and repeat the process that's a skill. Not everybody has that, and some people have it and then they don't have the athletes to get on the podium stand. What can you tell us for people that are listening right now? They're like, wait a minute, this guy won 6 state championships, things like that. What were some of the processes that you put into place, whether it was as an assistant coach and maybe things got different when you became the head coach, but what are some of the things, attitudes, actions that you put into place that you think helped create that culture of winning, that helped facilitate that?
The first thing was I had to believe that I by myself could win the state championship or win any championship, right?
You was
So
the
when I sit
coach?
down, yeah, as a
Mhm.
coach, I had to feel like I could win it. right? With no one, I can win it. I can outcoach the next coach. That's what we always sat down with. And then once you put your pen to the paper and you start coming up with the workouts, you have to, each year, we don't use the same mesocycle. Is brand new every year because we don't have the same kids.
Right.
So everything is adjusted, on the fly as we go. But once I started realizing, like, okay, I'm getting better at my craft, so then I can make a kid better, right? So we had great athletes. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we ever had elite athletes. We had a bunch of kids that we always call them Rocky, like Rocky Balboa. Like, we didn't have the best training facility. We didn't have weight, we didn't have the best everything, but what we did do, we worked extremely hard. And our thing was, are you outworking your yesterday? And if the answer is yes, then we're moving in the right direction.
All right.
And a lot of times those kids bought into, what we were selling them. And then we had the energy like, yes, we're the best team in the country. And, when you keep hearing it, you start training like it at a point. And then that's when we started taking the turn, of being who it was. And then that's when, like, social media really took off. So you was able to control your narrative. So we was able to put out that we was training harder than anybody. We're not putting the bloopers. We're not pulling the worst clips. We're putting the best clips, right? So you can see that, okay, they're doing something over there, right? What is it they're doing? And we started getting kids to come to the school. And that's when you started getting these kids walking through the hallways running 10.5s and 10.4s. And you be like, oh, okay. So when we control the narrative is when we started getting those extremely fast girls and extremely fast boys. And they just had to believe. And once they started believing that they could win a championship, that was the only thing we was trying to do. We never overlooked anything or anybody. We didn't worry about first, second, third, fourth. We always worried about the clock. So, like, I always tell the kids, like, okay, you want to win or you want to run fast. You can't have both. So running fast is we executed a week. The next microcycle, we executed that and you ran faster the following week. Do you want to win and run your slowest time? And a lot of them would say no. And when we got to that point is when I think we just took that turn and it was rolling. It was rolling. And then it rolled over the training aspect into summer track. So then we started finishing top 3 in things and a national champion here. So then you started putting, the faces together and be like, okay, that's 2 different teams, but that's one of the same.
Right.
And we didn't go out and we didn't really recruit kids for summer track. So we had our high school kids 350 days of the year.
Wow.
Easily, yeah.
How big of a squad? How many kids on each boys and girls
high
team?
school girls, we won state the 5 years in a row with them. The max girls we might have had was 6. On the boys' side, yeah, in state.
But not your whole team.
So the whole team on the girls' side, you might have had 12.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah, we never had
small school.
This is a 4A school in Louisiana, and 5A is the biggest classification.
To go 5 down to 1?
5 down to B and C, actually.
So 4, that's not a small school.
No,
but only 12 girls on the team.
Correct, and maybe 20 boys.
Wow. So a lot of times with successful programs, it's a numbers game. They'll have 100 kids out, and then percentage wise, that'll make for 10 of them will be fast or jump far or whatever. Yeah. Very small squad for this successful of a team.
So what we found is to control it, and it came back to what Coach Tubbins taught me early on in 2010, 11, 12, 13 is about strategic. So I can have 50 kids on my team, but if I don't have the right people in the right positions, then it is for nothing. You just have a really big team and you're going to make a lot of noise in the stands. Right. What he showed me was, okay, strategically throughout the whole season, you have to come up with meet to meet what kids going to do. And he taught me never to put a kid in 4 events in a regular meet. And I could not, for the life of me, understand it. I'm like, he was like, do you want to win a state championship or do you want to win the run-of-the-mill track meet? And I was like, when he said it like that, I was like, okay, I get it. Right. And this is, as I'm a head coach and I'm talking to him on the phone. He was like, you don't want to win just, the ABC track meet. I said, so you want your kids to be fresh, have legs. He said, yeah, sometimes you might sacrifice running, and they might not be, tuned up really to run. He said, but when it comes down to district and all these other things, they're fresh. So I tried it the first year and we won state. And I was like, okay, he has something here. So like I never had a kid running in multiple races in a regular track meet. They wouldn't do that until we got to district. So district and regional and state, you'll probably have your total of 12 races.
That's
but
interesting.
During a year, you probably ran a total of 12 races. So
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, not that this was the reason we didn't win state, but when I grew up, I ran track over in Alabama. We would race Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and we would. I think we were allowed 5 races. Track meet. We ran 15. I mean, it didn't matter who you were. You did every event, every meet, regardless. And so for an overall short season, it became a long season.
Yeah,
That's an interesting thought. I love that you get it done differently. That's. We try to pigeonhole lots of things, not just track and sports, but we try to think that there's a one way to do it and to do it right. I love that, instead of going for the large roster and culling down to however many kids make it to state and being loud in the stands, which I love that. I love that picture of like, oh yeah, everybody else is in the stands, all the other kids. You went more smaller scale and hyper focused on those kids and their abilities.
Now I would have loved to have a huge team. But where we are in the car is a football school. And when I tell you Coach Bryce and T. Howard and those guys do a phenomenal job. They've been to the state championship for the last 10 years.
Oh, wow. Again, Louisiana, big deal.
So, and then they won it 4 or 5 in a row. So, well, we would have been at a school where our 6 state championships in 7 years would have been like a big deal.
Right.
Football doing it too. So a lot of those speedsters, they didn't come really run track. Now, the first football guy we really got was Speedy Null.
Okay. And
he came out, he ran track, and then it kind of opened the pathway for Racing McMahon, the receiver at LSU. Okay. So all these people that I'm naming, they play football for Carr. Right. And they're phenomenal athletes, and they actually came out to do track. But just like your other receiver, second string receiver, they're not doing track because the focus is football. So we didn't get, we didn't have a lot of kids, but the kids that we did had, they worked their behinds off. So that's what we got.
2 things that you mentioned. The first subject I wanted to delve into. I asked you, what are some of the things that we can learn from your culture that you built there through the high school as an assistant coach and then as a head coach, and then on through the track and field club. The first thing you said was that you had to get over, I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, you had to get over your own mind and realize that you can do it. Mm-hmm. So what you described there is, I don't know if you've ever heard this in the formal sense, imposter syndrome. Yeah. Have you heard of imposter syndrome? Yeah, you're an education major, so you probably did. Yeah. Most people are like, what are you talking about, Mike? So when you said that, that's what I heard was like, you had to get over I'm just another guy, or I'm just another coach. I can't coach a state championship team, blah, 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 blah. All these negative self-talk that we give ourselves. And you had to you had to flip that switch almost, using that kind of visual to say, oh, you know what? No, wait. I can do this. I have the education. I have the people around me. I can do this. What were some of the things that you did to help flip that switch? You mentioned some education that you've done, some USTFCA and things like that. Maybe that played into it, but what were some of the things that helped you get to that point where it's like, oh, I can do this. I can coach a state championship team?
I started talking to a lot of the older coaches. By that time, I had built real strong relationship with a lot of college coaches. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let me not just have these contacts in my phone. Let me use these contacts. And I started talking to a lot of the guys, like Coach Vaughn. Like me and that guy had a conversation like maybe less than a month ago. And I started talking to these people, and I'm like, wait a minute, let me start asking them questions that have to do with track. Mm-hmm. Like every conversation don't always have to be about recruiting. I have a kid for you. So we started talking, and they started getting to know me as a man. I'm knowing them as a man. And we started talking about track. And I was like, wait, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. Where's the disconnect, right? That's what I couldn't understand. Like, if you're doing the same thing I'm doing, and we're comparing notes, and these things are identical, where's the disconnect? And the disconnect was, it was me. I was the one, right? I didn't believe that
Hmm.
I'm this good of a coach. I know I can coach, but I'm not sure. I'm timid with some of the things that I might bring out to the table. Maybe I couldn't fully explain it. But when I sat back and I started, grooming myself to coach, that's when I was like, I can do this. And then I just kept yelling it to the kids, like, we're gonna win state, whether I believed it or not.
Yeah.
It became something that they started believing in. And when I started seeing the difference in training, I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe we are gonna win state. And then it became just like, okay, now we're gonna win state. So
Hmm.
like that's why when it became robotic, it became that like, oh, we're gonna win state again. Like who's gonna stop us?
Hmm.
And it became more of an arrogant thing, than let's say how many kids we can sign. Like, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that feeling. That whole we supposed to, and
Yeah.
that's what it became.
Put a pin in that arrogance, because that's one of my topics to ask you about as well.
Yeah.
I love that. You talk about, you hear it quite often with athletes and their program, their coach, that if no matter how good or bad the training is, if athletes will believe in the coach, they can overcome a lot of maybe some deficiencies in the training.
Yeah.
You're describing that as yourself as a coach, like, oh, if I believe in myself and the education, the people that are pouring into me, I can overcome whatever deficiencies I may think I have. But if I don't believe it, well, then I've got those deficiencies, and I have a negative self-thought of my
Right.
level of coaching. You mentioned some coaches that you talk to, and maybe I'm gonna use the word mentor. You didn't necessarily use that word, but are there any coaches that you can think of that maybe you want to share with us, and maybe any specifics that they taught you?
Coach Pennington at Northwestern State down here in Louisiana. That's been my guy, man, for like about 10 to 12 years. We started coaching at the same time. He just was on the college level.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of talking, like a lot of talking. And a lot of things I learned from him is do it your way. Like, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You don't have to see a drill on the internet and say, well, it looks like a good drill, so let me use it. And that's one of the things that stood out to me. Like, if I just go and do it my way, I think I have success at it. And if I fail, that's fine, because I did it the way I wanted to do it. And
Yeah,
I
at
just get
least
back
you
to the
failed.
drawing board.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And staying true to yourself. And that's what I've been and where I've been for a while now. Just, if I'm going to succeed, we're going to succeed. If not, okay, we're going to get back to the drawing board. And that's kind of the mentality I've had maybe the last 5 or 6 years. Kind of like, we're going to go for the home run. And if we strike out, that's fine. We'll get back up and start swinging again. So that's been my mentality always with talking with Coach Pennington. And he's a real good friend at this point, man.
I love that you mentioned him. We had him on the show as well,
Yeah.
and I've known him, here and there through some projects and stuff. But yeah, that confidence level he has, and
Yeah.
he's got a fine line, outside looking in, of confidence to arrogant. Like, he stays on the confident side. I don't think of Adam as arrogant by any means. But that brings me to what I was going to ask you about, when you're talking about robotic and we just expect to win, and you're on the podium stand getting the first place trophy, and you're already talking about, well, what do we got to do next year, or those kind of things. Where does the line cross, especially when we're talking about high school? I don't know. I don't know if I should say especially high school athletes, because certainly college athletes can have the same concern, and certainly us as coaches and adults can have these troubles, right? But how did you balance that line of confidence, super important, and arrogance, which can be very detrimental to a team and an individual performances as well? How did you balance that?
The first thing I started doing was I started talking to coaches. So we would be at a track meet and we wouldn't talk to nobody. Kids talk to no one. Everyone is against us. So we're coming here to dominate, and then we're going to get back on the bus and we're going to leave. And we was in Chalmette, the outskirts of New Orleans, and we had a track meet. And I remember screaming, lap them. And we're in the 4x4 relay. Right. Yeah. And we
indoor meet? Is this an indoor
outdoor
meet, maybe?
This is outdoors. And wow. we missed the lap maybe about 20 meters.
Wow.
And then one of the older coaches in the stands that I knew, he came down and he was like, why? And I was like, why not? He was like, and I'm like, why not?
What an arrogant answer. I love that.
Yeah, right. I'm like, why not?
Why not?
Like they're there. Why not? Let's go after it.
Right.
We're going to push the split. And he was like, because the sport's not about that. And when he said that, I was like, got it.
Mm.
got it. And then after that, shortly after that, we started talking to coaches and building relationships with like your local coaches, and having those conversations like now with their kids on social media. Like that was a real big thing that wasn't happening. So to the outside, it was just arrogant, oh my God, like that's y'all really like that, like, and when they saw that it wasn't that, that's when, I guess all the good things started happening, man. Success started coming, and kids stayed healthy and everything.
That's interesting because you talked about your experience growing up competing in high school and how a lot of those individuals are still friends or, became friends and are still friends and
Yeah.
helped you start Team Legania for working out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with the way you described of the, going in, not talking to anybody, everybody's the enemy, you take
Hmm.
away that from the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
That's a large thing to take away. So I like, so honestly, this is going to sound weird because this may mean nothing to you, Nile, but I'm so proud that you had that realization. Like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute. As the coach, you realize I am the leader. So they're feeding off of me. Well,
Hmm.
if they're going to feed off me and I see that this is something that's wrong, well, then I need
Yeah.
to change it so they'll see it. So you took the first step and started talking to other coaches and showing
Yeah.
the other kids like, look, see, we compete really against ourselves. The other
Yeah.
people just happen to be in the lane, so we're trying to beat them, but they're still people, they're still working hard. We should still have a relationship with them.
I think it took a lot of maturing as a coach
Hmm.
on my part. And
Sure.
that's around the time that I had a son. My wife, we so
Mhm.
so it became your responsibility now is just a little bit different.
That
So how
will
you
do it.
move, yeah, right. So you can't be as reckless as you once were. And that kind of shifted
Yes.
everything. So yeah.
Yeah, that will do it. I think a lot of people who, maybe have an arrogance problem or things like that. It's like, yeah, have a kid. That'll knock you
Yeah.
down real
Yeah.
quick.
You go from winning all these championships to becoming a maid. You got to clean up behind you.
Right. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's actually it. So it's, I said it knocks you down a peg, but what it really, if you're doing it right, uh, you go from, oh, I'm serving myself to, oh, I'm serving this little one and
Yeah.
mom or dad, depending on what part of the relationship you are on there. It's a team effort. It's not
Yeah.
about Nile anymore. It's about Team Legania, actually, right? It's about
Right.
mom and
Yeah.
kid. And yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you mentioned a couple of times social media. I'm a huge social media advocate. I love social media. While it definitely has its negatives, I just really focus and love the positive aspect of social media. My man, you have 20,000 followers on my favorite social media app, Twitter.
Yeah.
That's not, it reminds me of Cedric Vaughn. We had him on the show. He's at Arkansas
Yeah.
Baptist
Yeah.
College and
Arkansas. Yeah.
he's got like 40,000. He trumps all of us,
Yeah.
but 20,000 is no small feat. Now to do that, in my estimation, that means you are providing value to others so
Right.
much that they want to follow. Like, I want more of that value.
Yeah.
Tell me in your words, how did you get to 20,000? I don't mean the mechanics of it, but
Yeah.
how'd that come to be?
I have no clue. Um,
Wait a minute, I was
I
going to
have no
write down
clue.
these great
So
notes of how this happened.
yeah,
It's no
it
clue.
is no step, no process. And I wasn't really on Twitter. Like, so I've been on Twitter like the early on, and when you follow for follow and you post things, and I got off it.
Mhm.
And I didn't really get back on Twitter until I became the head coach at Dillard, because
Oh.
I knew that's where the recruits are.
Mhm.
So I had already built the following, from back when I was an athlete and those things. I built that following. A lot of those people are like, when we would go somewhere and they would follow you because you're the opposing player, athlete, things like that, and
Right.
people I may know. But I'm more of an Instagram person.
Hmm.
So that's where I am. And then I realized, like, okay, all the recruits are on Twitter.
Huh.
So now I've popped back up. And I'm able to kind of manipulate Twitter. It's easy. So
What, what,
like
what do you have on Instagram? Follower
followers,
wise? Yeah.
I think 16,000.
Yeah. Wow. So still significant. And
Yeah.
I'm not much. I like Instagram. Like, I don't know. I'm much more of a Twitter guy because of the communication side of it, I
Yeah.
guess. But uh, I think Instagram was like my last one I got. It's Facebook first,
Yeah.
of course, and then Twitter and whatnot. Yeah. Well, I tell you, first of all, tell us what since you like Instagram as well, tell us your Instagram and your Twitter handles real quick for people that are listening
Um,
so they can go
Both of
follow.
them are the same.
Oh, good.
Underscore the track coach underscore.
Underscore the track coach. You don't spell it funky, spell it the
regular,
track coach.
simple guy.
And thank you for that. I get people, the track coach with a K and no C.
Yeah,
It's like,
no.
look, man, no one's going to follow you. So it's
Right.
underscore the track coach underscore.
Correct.
Love that on both Instagram and Twitter. So please go follow Nile. And here's why. I don't know about his Instagram, but I can't guess that it would be much different than his Twitter. So the reason Nile is on the show, my goal on Twitter is to follow and hopefully have people follow me back, every track coach in the country on Twitter. So I found Nile through probably someone that I was following retweeted you or commented. So I got to see, your name pop up in my feed, and I noticed, oh, okay, Nile's the head coach at Dillard, and I'm not following him yet. So I followed. And then since then, so that's probably 30, 60, 90 days ago. Well, you've only been there 3 months. So it has to be within 90 days, I think. I don't think I followed you before you were the head coach at Dillard, but your Twitter feed, here's what I talk about value. Like, you're one of the people that I love when it pops up in my feed. You are one of the most authentically positive people I have found on Twitter. Now, there's a ton of positive people. Don't get me wrong. And a lot of people like to retweet and tweet quotes of famous people and, John Gordon's and, other motivational speakers and what have you. Yours is much more about what you're doing for your team for that day or week. And about that, like, hey, can't wait to, I'm paraphrasing here. I should have had some examples printed out, but hey, looking forward to this week's practice because we're gonna get better this week and whatever. I mean, it's just so authentic. Where does that come from? It doesn't seem scripted, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. It seems like it's from the heart, and you just go to Twitter and put it on there.
Yeah, so I'm not a scripted type person. So yeah, so it's not, definitely not. It's not for the 20,000+ followers. It's for those 56 kids that I have on Dillard team. So you see it because we're following each other, but it's not for the public. It's for those kids, because now that they bought into what I'm doing, now I have to make you feel comfortable that I have the right thing in place. And a lot of times they'd be like, they're screenshotting. Yeah, coach. Yeah. Like, they'll let me know they saw it and be like, I feel it, so that it's the whole buy-in thing again. So I come in is 50 at the time, I think maybe 40 something. And now we got it up to 56 kids total. And you don't know me. I don't know you.
Right.
So we have to learn each other's story. And I always say the best way to learn somebody is go to the social media.
True.
And once the kids saw like the energy, I'm a big energy person. If it's not the right energy around me, I can't be around it. So they feel it, and once you start believing that you can do something, you can do it. It's not going to be a easy path. It's different. You don't want it to be easy. You want to have some bumps in the road, some hiccups, so you can actually get better from it. So I don't think it's going to be, any easier.
Right.
And Xavier University of Louisiana has run a conference for the last umpteen years. But my goal is to let them know that we're here. I'm not, it's not about them. I want to let them know, like, okay, Dillard doing something different over there. And it was pretty neat, man. When you do the preseason polls, coaches vote. And our men was chosen to be number one. Like, weird. And I was like, okay, you have nothing to look back on and say this is why, because no one had the COVID season. In the year before that, the guys finished, I think, third or fourth. Yeah. So it was that's the same thing I said. So, so I and that helped. That pushed the energy even further. So now I'm out here busting my behind, and I'm believing what coach telling me. I'm starting to feel a change in the weight room and on the track. And then those standings come out. And I use that as fuel for both sides, because the girls were selected to finish third. And in 2019, they finished last in the conference. So like I told the girls, I said, something that they see. You're supposed to be last. It's something that they see that y'all doing. Again, is that narrative, that social media narrative, and the things that I post. I didn't realize how many people actually pay attention to these things. Like, I had no clue, but it's the narrative that we're pushing, and those kids are starting to believe that it's something that we can do. Everybody wants to be the king.
Mhm.
Only can be one king, and our goal is to try to take the king down.
Where does that, so, I agree with you. And hopefully, I back it up with my own social media posts, positivity rules, right? You're
Right.
an emotion guy, you're a positive guy, but it's much easier to be the negative person, right?
Yeah.
It's much easier to say, well, I only get so many scholarships, or, well, it's my first year, man, you're not that good, da 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 da, right? But you don't, you tend to over index on the other side, on the positive side. Where does that come from innately with you?
Um, Growing up, um, I was the only child. So I'm my mom only child, and it was just
Hmm.
me and my mom.
Hmm.
So you saw struggle, you saw, missed Christmases, broken promises. I got all that. So I chose to let it go and worry about my own energy. And when I started doing that,
Mm.
that's when, my energy is my energy. So no one can control my energy. And when I started, and the older you get, you start realizing like some of the things that the older people telling you that you didn't want to hear make a bunch of sense to you now. You be like, yeah, I remember my grandmother saying
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
1997. So you got to go through your own, your own bumps in the roads and
Yeah.
your trials and tribulations. But you have to go through it, and you grow up and you be like, you look back at your past and be like, it doesn't matter. I'm standing where I'm standing now. So I think it had a lot to do with, growing up, past situations, and different relationships, and things like that. So and me and my wife, we met doing summer track, so like 1997-ish. And it brought me to that because it brought me that journey again. Like we tried to do the girlfriend boyfriend thing in high school, it didn't work.
Wow.
We tried in college, it didn't work. And then again, we be married 10 years this upcoming summer. So, it takes the journey.
Yeah.
That's part of my journey. That's part of my growing, and things like that. And we have two kids together, a 7-year-old yesterday,
Oh,
and my
happy
daughter
birthday.
who's 2. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So it has a lot to do with that. And I'm not like, you're not gonna take my energy from me. It's
Hmm.
my energy. So I move like that, man. Probably honestly, like the last 2 years, like it's just been, I can control how I feel. No one can control,
Yeah.
how I feel. And when I got to that point, nothing but positive been coming to me.
Yeah, I have so much respect for that. I was an only child myself and
Yeah,
single mother as well. So just so much respect of that self-responsibility,
yeah,
and not that it's, only affects, only children or single mother children. But, life gets good when you start taking self-responsibility, when you
yeah.
stop giving power to everybody and everything else, that, oh, I'm not good because of X, or I don't
Hmm.
have this because of Y, or da da da. When it starts like, oh, well, I can only affect myself. So if
Yeah.
I work on getting better here, learning here, don't let this put me down, life gets good, man.
And
Life
it
gets real
becomes so
good.
easy, man.
Right,
It
right,
becomes
right.
so easy.
You said you met your wife at summer track. Was
Summer
she a
track.
track star as well?
Yeah, man. She actually, yeah, she the track star.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Wait a minute,
so
Mr.
yeah,
1047. Mom
yeah. No,
is
no.
the trackster.
Yeah. She was a jumper. Signed a scholarship to La Tech. Coach Jackson, that's at TCU, was her jump coach.
John, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, she ended up being an All-American for him over there. And
Oh,
it's crazy.
wow.
Is what is crazy is that streak that I had, those 5 seasons, she was my jump coach. She was a jumps coach.
Boy, it really is team Legania.
No, yeah, man. Yeah. And she's the jump coach for our summer club. Yeah.
Wow,
She don't want to come to
man.
Dillard, but so yeah, but
She needs
yeah,
some
it
separation from you. I get it.
nah, she do. She do. She do. Now
The,
we a track family, man. We are
I love
definitely a
that.
track family. Like,
Is the
we
7-year-old doing summer track right now? I don't know how young it
he
goes.
he's a STEM person. He's into to STEM and
Yeah.
those things and
Big Lego guy?
making cartoons. Not so much, but he'll
Okay.
build it on a tablet, like
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
hands on. Yeah, so yeah, we spend a lot of money on those things. Like he like to create cartoons and do voiceovers, and we let him,
Get out of
be
here. That's
great. Yeah.
awesome.
She's not a baby. All she do is sprint around the house in a pamper. So I think she's going to be the one, you know, in a few years that's running track.
I'm so glad I don't have any more kids in diapers. You get an instant pay
Yeah.
raise right there, buddy. Let me tell
Yeah,
you.
right.
You know it, yeah.
Right. Man.
Sounds like you got your hands full though with the creative stuff for the boy, and who knows what she'll get into, man. She'll find
Yeah.
some passion that she'll go for.
And it's so crazy. We don't talk about track in the house. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Like,
Yeah.
we never talk about track in the house.
Really?
And
Mom and dad are big time track people. One's
don't talk about
profession
track.
is in it, and no. Huh.
No
That's
track.
interesting.
Yep.
Do you watch track meets much, or just the big ones like Olympics and stuff? I mean, you're usually at a track meet, so it's hard to watch track
So
meets.
if I can catch it on TV, I'll watch it. If I have some of my past kids running, I'll try to check results and everything, but I don't really watch it. Like, you know, I try to just stick to what we're doing. Like somebody says, old fashioned, you know, but I like to stick to what we're doing. And I occasionally pop in and watch it and, you know, see what some of those superstars are doing, you know, because everyone can't be Usain Bolt. You have to be yourself. And a lot of times those guys also have bad habits. And I want to be like that person. So now I start running like that, you know, and then, you know, so now we don't really talk about it. And I watch it. I watch it enough to know what's going on. And I pay attention to a lot of articles and things like that. But yeah, we don't talk about it much.
You grew up in a fantastic area, you know, New Orleans. So it's safe to assume you're an LSU and Saints fan?
Not so much LSU.
Okay.
Saints, yeah.
Yeah.
I just enjoy football. I like foot. It don't matter who's watching it. Now the Saints on TV, I'm watching it.
Sure.
But I'm a football fan. And I barely watch that.
Do you?
Like I find.
Go ahead.
I find myself I'm reading a book. 48 Laws of Power.
Oh, say it again. I love books. Hold on. Wait, say that again.
48 Laws of Power.
48 Laws of Power. Tell me more about that.
So it's 48 laws in the book, and each law has a story behind it on why is a law, and they give you like the biblical meaning, and then it goes into like some other things like the different meanings behind it. And like one of the laws is never outshine the master. And I stuck on that one for a while. It's the first law, and I'm like, this book is like 300 pages. I'm still on, you know, I keep reading the same one, but what it taught me was when you put yourself in a position, right, it's always someone above you. You have to know when to make your move. And a lot of times when you put yourself out as a threat to them, they get rid of you. So like it kind of taught me to like just play your position and play your position well, and when your time coming to come.
Are you more of a nonfiction or fiction reader? This is nonfiction, it sounds like.
Yeah, this is nonfiction. Whatever.
Yeah, kind of both.
Yeah. You know, I'm no one way or no other. Whatever I feel like reading at the time.
Do you have a favorite book?
I don't. I go. Yeah, I don't. I just sometimes I just pick up and start reading. And don't even know the title of the book most of the time. I just grab it and start going.
Interesting.
Yeah. When I can read.
Yeah.
Yo.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. I'm a nonfiction guy. Mostly about, I hesitate to say self-improvement or motivational books, but mostly about how to get better, whether it's, you know, memory usage or how to work with people better, things like that. But always gravitated towards nonfiction. That's interesting. 48 Laws of Power. I'm going to look that up. I love read. I read more when I'm traveling, and I haven't traveled now, unfortunately, for quite a while, but I'll have to look that up. Well, talk to us about, so we've talked about, you know, what a great background, shout out to your mom and raising you and doing obviously a fantastic job, honestly. You know, your wife and 2 kids and social media, arrogance. I mean, we packed a lot of things in there. Well, now this is your first collegiate coaching experience and you're a head coach. That's a whole different ball game than being an assistant coach. First of all, what led you into, I mean, you could have stayed where you were successful. You're robotic, but you were successful, right? You're winning state championships. Obviously you probably liked your job. You'd been there for a decade. What led you to go to college, and why as a head coach, and what have you learned so far?
So the robotic part of the high school level, I felt it was time. It was going to be either moving on for the collegiate level, or just doing my track club
Mm.
year round because it became so robotic. And once we got to the summertime and I started realizing like, even on my club level, these kids are doing this at a high level, even at 9 years old. So it has to be something there with the coaching, also. So I was like, you know what? Good friend of mine, Derek Gay, he was the head coach over there. And now he's in Indiana at Taylor University.
Yeah, I say
Yeah.
I know Derek. Yeah.
And we his time here, his 2 years here, we became close.
Mm.
And he was like, man, I'm leaving. I think it'd be a good fit for you. And I was like, do you think so? I'm dropping a lot, to
Right.
to make the move. He was
Yeah.
like, I do. And Dr. Barnes got in contact with me and we talked for a while, and the process was crazy, man.
How so?
I had never went through a process like it.
Oh, okay.
I interviewed with the assistant to Dr. Barnes, and then I interviewed with the entire coaching staff, like everyone, basketball,
Oh.
athletic trainers. Yeah, it was different. The third interview was with the kids.
Oh, okay.
And understand, all this is on Zoom. so
Oh,
so you
right.
have cameras off, cameras on. I can't really gauge if you really getting
That's a
what I'm
good point.
saying.
Yeah,
And I'm
good
like,
point.
okay, well, I guess it was good, and it's crazy because all this is why I'm doing a level 2 certification. And that was online.
Right.
So I'm on 2 laptops. I'm doing a level 2 certification and I'm doing interviews at the same
A little
time.
busy.
Yeah, man. And so though that, and it might have happened from a Friday to Monday.
Okay.
And she called me that Monday and she was like, I want to interview with you. I'm like, this is like the 4th or 5th interview.
Were
Okay.
you getting a sense, like, did you think like, okay, I can get this job, or are you still just completely in the dark?
I couldn't gauge it.
Hmm.
I was being myself,
Mm-hmm.
and what I knew, like I always say in the interview, you only like you're your best person. You know about yourself. No one else knows about you. You know about yourself. You know about
Mm-hmm.
your history, your background. Just speak on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't gauge it. Everything's through Zoom, so I really couldn't get a feel for if. So the weekend passed, and I was like, well, I guess I start getting the off-season plan ready. So it is what it is. And she called, we interviewed, and we hung up, and I felt that was the first time it was just me and the AD talking. And I was like, okay, I think she likes the energy.
Okay.
And then maybe the next day or maybe later that night, I got the offer letter.
What went through your mind when they called you or emailed you the offer letter?
It was a call, actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Kyra Washington called me. It was like the most casual conversation. She was like, "Hey, coach." I was like, "Hey, Kyra." She was like, "Yeah, so." And when she said, "Yeah, so," I was like, "Well, didn't get it." She was like,
yeah. So we're decided to go
go another way, right? That's what I'm
Right.
thinking.
That's what
She
I was
like,
thinking. Yeah.
"Well, so we're gonna offer you the job." And I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." And we hung up the phone, and I did a little dance in my office.
Wait, that was it? Just we're gonna offer you? Yep. Okay.
We're gonna
Okay.
offer you the job. You'll get your offer letter in the email. I was like, okay. And
How
then we got
many
off the
times?
phone
Yeah. How many times did you hit refresh for your email?
at least 30 times
Come
a
on. Come on.
minute.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, I was like, this taking too long. But the number, it wasn't about the number.
Mm-hmm.
I was going.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been $1 for the year. I was going, right? Because it's something I want to do. I was going.
Right.
And that was, and it's crazy because me and my wife still haven't celebrated it. Like we still haven't, because the moment I got it, I was like, all right, well, let me start getting the schedule together.
Oh,
Let me start getting in contact with the kids.
Nile. You know what that
Yeah,
sounds
right.
like? That sounds like you're getting too robotic right off the bat.
I know, man.
Honestly,
I
literally, when you said that,
know.
I got tingle. I was like,
I
wait a minute.
know.
Wait a
I
minute.
know.
You
And
haven't
I caught
celebrated
myself.
with your wife.
Yeah, I caught myself, and we went ate at least 6 times since then. I caught myself.
Way
Like
to make up
it
for it.
really, yeah, it really became that. It
Yeah.
really was about to become that. I was like,
Mhm.
all right, and then I stopped. And then I say, nope, not doing it. So,
Good.
it's slow, it stopped.
Good.
And so now I'm here, man, and the goal is no different. Dr. Barnes told me, come in and just do. She said, you have no pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
Just go coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She said, just go coach. If you have a bad season, we'll blame it on COVID. That's what I like to hear.
You're like, I want that in paper, please, just to make sure.
So I think I like her. She allows me to be myself.
Cool.
And coach.
Do you have any paid assistant coaches?
We do.
Okay.
That one coach actually does volleyball and track.
Okay. Yeah. So how are you managing, your first 90 days? You've got you're learning. There's a lot of things different, some paperwork and things like that, recruiting, although with the track club, you had some recruiting, but it's different. And you definitely had the experience on the other side of recruiting, when college coaches would come calling. What has been the biggest surprise? What did you, in the first 90 days here, you're like, oh man, I wasn't really sure I had to do this, and it caught me from out of the blue or whatnot?
So when going in, once I got the job, I started my phone calls. So I started them what to expect. I talked to Derek Gay. He was just there. He told me what to expect. So I knew what to
great
expect.
Resource. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't go in blind. It was nothing that, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. It hasn't been that. For me, it was more the engagement with the athletes.
I could see that.
Remember, I had 6 girls in state. I had a total of 30 kids. Now we're talking almost 60 kids.
Right.
And at the time, we just got Coach Pope, like maybe 3 weeks ago. So for the first 2.5 months, it was me and almost 60 kids. Mm-hmm. So, and I felt it was important to sit down with each individual kid.
Yeah, good for you.
So my first week on the job, that's what I did for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So for a whole week, we did absolutely nothing as a team because I felt like I had to sit down with each individual.
You didn't do anything on the track with the team because what you were doing might have been more important. I'd say it's more important for your first week, new coach, new kids. Hey, let's get a little one-on-one and figure out who we are.
Yeah, because anywhere you go, you're going to have veterans. Mm-hmm. So I need the veterans. Let's talk first. Let's get on the same page, because a lot of times I'm going with my coach. A lot of kids think like that. So I had to make sure I didn't have that situation.
Right.
I had to make sure the scholarship money, you felt you was getting is legit to your times and what you can bring to the table.
Right.
And that was 1 week, nonstop, all day from 8 to 5, all day.
Good for you for doing that.
Yeah. And I felt that. Now, remind you, couldn't really get a gauge. Everybody have masks on. And our one-on-ones, we have masks on. So I was like, okay, well, I'll wait until we get to training and they can come out the mask and we can do some distance stuff. And I can kind of get a gauge for the kids. And, I didn't know everyone's name, but I knew something about you. Mm-hmm. Like if you had an IT band issue, you was the IT band girl. But I knew it was a matter of time before I knew your name.
Right.
So I was doing those things, or if you was from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, you was Ocean Springs, or you was Mississippi. So I started doing those things to kind of get to know the kids, man. And now I can tell you the life story of 56 kids.
Yeah. Well, and they may not have expressed that, and some would have, but that means a lot. When you're talking about an 18 to 22-year-old that just lost their coach, who they obviously had some faith and trust with because they stayed or had been recruited by Derek, who's a great person. You had to not replace Derek. You had to be your own person and coach and bring your own culture in. Well, they don't know who. Most of them probably had no clue who you were or what's this guy going to do? Is he going to, make us run mile repeat, whatever, is it, they had to earn your trust and vice versa. And what a better way to do it than to get to know the person.
Yeah. And the great part about it was maybe 2 of the kids, Cody Branch and Tyrone Barrow, I coached against them. So they knew, of that short period of winning, right?
All right.
It was like, oh no, he can coach. So I think that kind of helped me, a little bit. And like I didn't want to lead with it. I win state championships, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't want to lead with that. I wanted to just have a casual conversation with them and see where it went from there. And they always ask like, well, have you won anything? And then I'll be like, well, you open the floodgates, so let's talk about it.
Well, now that you mention it, bling.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that pushed it over for me with the Dillard job was I actually won AAU Zone B Coach of the Year over the summer.
Okay.
And my track club got Club of the Year for
Nice.
Zone B. So I think that kind of pushed it just a little bit over for me. And it was like, okay, maybe you have some winning ways about you. And like I told, I want to come in and I want to do it my way. and I want to start winning. We got to work to it, but I want to
Right.
start winning, and to get to that, you have to go through Xavier, and there's just no way around it. That is the team, and I want to compete against them.
How has it been with the COVID restrictions? I coached for 10 years, 15 years ago now, so it seems
Yeah.
like forever ago. I can't imagine coaching during this COVID time. I've heard of schools that have to coach in pods, so it has to be these 5 kids or whatnot, regardless of what event they are. They're the only ones that can be on the track for a time, and then the next pod comes. How has it been at Dillard for restrictions and
Yeah.
safety
So
protocols?
we take COVID tests every week.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we taking it every week. I was taking it every Saturday anyway, because I got babies in the house. But
Mhm.
at the school, we take it every week. And for me, it's been easy because I get to be on like a kind of like a romantic training with you, like maybe 3 or 4 of us, and it's calm, but it's all day. So when we
Mhm.
in a weight room, my block is like 6 hours
Mm.
because I have 50 plus kids, and I think our training staff, do a real good job of saying, nope, too many kids.
Mm.
I'm like, but it's 8 kids. They're like, nope, too many kids. So yeah, so we was having 5 to 6 kids lifting at one time.
Mm.
Like, yeah, now the lifting go fast because there's only so many kids, but it's like, God, I'm really in here all day. So you're not checking emails, you're not picking up phone calls, you're not doing a lot of those administrative things that I needed to
Mhm.
be doing at the time. But I get it. I get it. We can't control the times that we are in. So, I just roll with the punches, and hopefully we able to have a season. If not, we're gonna prepare like we're gonna have a season. So
How's that going as far as scheduling an indoor season and then an outdoor season?
we don't do indoor
Mm.
right now.
Mhm.
That's my big push.
Mhm.
We're gonna start doing that at some point. But right now we don't do much of indoors. So our season wouldn't start until February. And we have an outdoor schedule,
Mhm.
but nothing is concrete.
Mm.
So you can have a complete schedule and half your season is ended.
Mhm.
Because we were supposed to have cross country conference in the spring, and we
Oh.
ended up having it 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
So thank God, like our kids, we were doing just general conditioning because we thinking you're not having anything, and you get an email that say, "Ha, psych." So you need to start training, and we did well. We, we ended up bringing 8 kids out, because we were shorthanded naturally, and 5 kids ended up being all conference. So I think
Wow.
that was a real good, like, especially when you're trying to sell them and you're trying to say we're going to turn the corner and we're going to
Right.
start winning. When they see 5 of those kids get all conference, they kind of looking like, okay, all
Hmm.
right. So I think that was a big thing for us, and I think we did well, due to the circumstances. I think they competed well, and we try to do some mock stuff down at Tag Gorman to the best of our ability on the track, but a cross country course that they have down there. But you couldn't prepare for it.
I don't think you can become a track coach, or at least be a track coach for any length of time, without being flexible. So I think this COVID thing is right up a track coach's alley.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
most coaches are like, it sucks, but I do this and that, and I started
right.
doing this and stopped doing that. The kids, what a valuable lesson for them to learn about flexibility and
Whew.
just doing the best you can with what you got, and knowing that it can change tomorrow.
Yeah, my slogan to that is, "You'll be okay. It'll be fine. It'll
You'll
be
be
fine.
okay.
It'll be okay."
Well, you mentioned, being in the weight room, and that's the thing, regular non-COVID track coaching can be extremely time consuming in regards to being on the track all day. And, God bless throws coach. I always think of a throws coach. One of the ones that are typically, hammer throw at 9 to 11, and then the shot putters, and then the javelins.
Yeah,
There's a lot of uniqueness there, but the time crunch with COVID, like I said, with these pods, 5 or 8 at a time. Oh man, because the rest of it don't stop. Your budget's still there. You still got a schedule. By the way, it's
yeah,
maybe harder because the schedule changes every day and things like that. Um, it's just tremendous time commitment. So I'm so thankful to get time with you today, man. This was a lot of fun, man. I'm really
yeah. Absolutely.
fascinating to learn. I love meeting and talking with people who have a real passion, and not most, everybody we've had here on the Connections podcast has a passion around track and field. It's kind of a prereq to be on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
But I love the passions around a community. So I love, Mr. New Orleans here. I've had, I had Mr. Colorado one, I just, people that are just, in a region, and they're just affecting their network in so many positive ways. And you are in your network there in the New Orleans and the surrounding area where you've had impact. It's just tremendously positive. That is, we try to sometimes inflate what we can do. We want to change the sport of track and field. Well, that's a big ask, right? Is to change our whole sport. It's been around forever, but what we can do, every one of us, is affect positively your area. So whether you're in New Orleans, Chanute, Kansas, Champaign, Illinois, New York City, you have an area that you have the ability to be a positive or a negative influence. And my man, Nile, you are obviously being a positive influence, first over the high school and the track club, and now with this new exciting role at Dillard University. What an impact you have made so far and are going to continue to make. I'm just so thankful.
I appreciate you, definitely.
Well, thanks for being on the show, man. I'm so glad. I know I guarantee you got work. You either have to get something done with a schedule, you got to get some practice, or that 2-year-old needs something. I know that without a fact, man. So I'll let you get out of here. But again, just so thankful you would join us here on the show, man. This was a lot of fun for me.
I appreciate you, Mike.
Thanks, Niall. Appreciate it.
All right.